Butler School, and I'm really pleased and grateful to be presenting tonight with our other 3 elementary principals, and we will each be sharing a bit. Heidi from the Wellington School, and Anita from the Winbrook School, and Celie from the Burbank School. Tonight's presentation is to help share some more information about the hybrid model, the hybrid phase for learning. The last time we all met, we met in our building-based meetings and shared a bit more about remote learning. So tonight we're hoping to share with you some and answer questions that you have about the hybrid model, because we've received lots and lots of questions. And so we're hoping to be able to answer those for you this evening. So this, as I shared, we're going to review the remote learning model, and then we're going to talk about the full hybrid model with a little bit more detail, and then talk about what full remote learning in hybrid would look like. And that means, what would fully remote look like for kids when we go into hybrid mode. And so those are the 3 things we're going to talk about today, and hopefully answer your questions. So as we have shared, we are in all of our work since we started this summer and in thinking about building our learning plan for this year, we focused with all of our educators and our elementary educators to think about principles that we would use to help guide the development of our plans and our learning and our lessons and all of our working together. So we would like to share those, review and share those with you.
And so the first one that we came up with, we met as an administrative team and did this work, and then we met as a teacher team and did this work. And the both teams prioritized first that we wanted to take care of the social and emotional well-being of our students and staff, and create a classroom environment in which students felt safe and connected. And so that was our first priority as we made the thousands of decisions that have gone with us along on this process.
And the second guiding principle is that we will work together with our colleagues to uplift and support each other, share responsibilities, and plan instruction effectively. One of the best things that has come out of this time is that we found lots and lots of ways to collaborate. All of our teachers have been collaborating at a much higher level than they ever have before, because they've had more opportunities to, and likewise the elementary principals have as well.
Hello, can you hear me now? I was on mute, sorry. Our third principle is that we will incorporate a variety of learning experiences into our practice that are developmentally appropriate, incorporate meaningful technology, and are carefully and thoughtfully designed with our students in mind. In this new environment, we want to make sure that we are really diversifying the strategies that we use with our students in order to make sure that we are teaching the students who are in front of us and differentiating our instruction for them.
Celie, are you muted?
I am indeed. Look at the once again. So amateur hour, folks. Sorry about this. We'll differentiate our instruction to excite and engage all of our students and meet their emotional and academic needs.
And work that we had begun before the pandemic hit in Belmont is we were working to ensure that our schools embraced anti-racist practices and become more safe and equitable for all members of our community. And we worked together to decide, is this something we wanted to put on the back burner while we dealt with the pandemic, or something we wanted to continue the momentum for? And we agreed, teachers and admin, that this is work that we want to continue. And really thinking about that, equitable doesn't mean giving everybody the same thing, but giving everybody what they need. And oh, and there's the nice picture. And accessibility if you see in the middle picture, everybody got in the first picture, everybody gets the same. In the second picture, everybody gets this, what they need. And in the third picture, the barriers have been moved so everything is accessible. And that's a model that we're thinking about in our schools for all of our students.
And lastly, we will assess our students at regular intervals and use that data to guide our instruction. And so this evening we'll begin considering remote and hybrid learning, as we know that you are trying to make decisions about for your children this year.
So thinking now about, as you know, we are about to enter the remote learning period. And this will start on Wednesday as we begin school together online. Moving to the next slide. So as you know, as we've shared with you at our previous presentations and through our emails, the remote learning program, first of all, as you know, the beginning of remote learning is truly about developing routines, establishing classroom communities, and building up to a diverse and sophisticated program that all students can participate in with increasing levels of independence. But this will only occur through taking our time and spending the first 4 to 6 weeks of school establishing routines and building trust. Once we do get to that full learning model, some of the highlights of that model are academic workshops throughout the day in which teachers conduct mini lessons, share little bits of information, content and strategies, and then break students into differentiated small groups. There are also common lunches and break times so the families can eat lunch together and so the children get breaks as they need it, because remote learning is hard work. We have specials. Our specials activity, art, music, PE are taught in live workshops where students have the same opportunities that they have in their academic classes to hear new content and skills and strategy being presented, and then working in small groups independently and interacting in meaningful interactions with their teachers to dive deeply into content. Our remote model also highlights community time. We know how hard it is to form meaningful communities in a remote learning environment. So we've really been purposeful at starting every day with a morning meeting just dedicated to establishing community, and then ending the day with closing circles to review the day and get ready for the next one. You may have heard that a small number of students will be in person during phase 1. There are a small number of students who were identified by the Department of Education who will come in for in-person specialized instruction. And for those small number of students, we will have an orientation for them on September 22nd. You would have been contacted if your child falls into that category, so don't worry if you haven't. But for those students who have, we'll see them on September 22nd in person. Next slide. Thank you. And here is our large overview of our remote learning program that I know that you've seen. Again, it will take us 6 weeks to get to this place. But as you can see, our days start and end with office hours, and then followed by morning meetings and closing meetings in the afternoon, as I discussed before. Our light blue periods are academic workshops, those academic times where teachers are differentiating instruction, kids are working on and off the screens independently in groups with teachers, with aides. And there are 4 academic workshops throughout the day so that students have an opportunity to really engage in different domains. Our kindergarten has purposeful play as one of their academic workshops, because for us, we believe in kindergarten that part of their work is play. Play is the work of all children, and particularly in kindergarten, children learn through play. And Wednesday afternoons are times where students will be able to work independently, watching pre-recorded specials lessons and doing independent activities such as handwriting practice, Lexia, and Dreambox. These activities will start next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, as this Wednesday is a true half day of school. Every Wednesday ends at 11:45, but starting next Wednesday, your children will have independent practice to do when they leave the virtual school on Wednesday afternoons. We are really excited to work up to this model, and we so appreciate your support as you help to reinforce the skills and strategies that will teach your children as we get there. Next slide. As you know, our remote learning school hours are very similar to what they are in the brick and mortar school, with just some slight changes. On Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, students will begin their morning meeting at 8:45. At Winbrook, the day shifted just a tiny bit, which you can see there, but for the other 3 schools, they will start their day at 8:45 and end at 2:50. And on Wednesdays, as I said, every Wednesday is a half a day, with starting next Wednesday with asynchronous learning activities following in the afternoon. Next slide. And then I will pass it on, because coming soon, we'd like to talk about our hybrid model.
Yes. Yes, coming soon, ladies and gentlemen. And we hope that will happen, in very short amount of time. The full hybrid model, a blend of in-person and remote learning. So the full hybrid, however, will only begin when it is safe to do so. The metrics that we will be using are developed, in conjunction with the state and the Board of Health in Belmont, we have set a date certain that we will review those metrics and move into the hybrid model. Our hybrid model at the elementary level is building off of our remote schedule. It has the same basic structure, except that, of course, students are coming into the school physically. They'll come 2 mornings a week plus alternating Wednesdays. So you can see that in this graphic, which is very simplistic, of course, but shows the mornings and afternoons, and students will come in, say, cohort A, when they are cohorted, will come in Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings, and Monday and Tuesday mornings of the following week, and not coming back again on Wednesday. And cohort B will be the opposite, doing Thursdays and Fridays with the swinging Wednesday. In the afternoon, everyone will be out and working in a full remote model. And they will be doing remote but synchronous work as they had been doing in the remote model we're starting with. And there will be no lunch at school. So here is a more detailed view of this particular model, in which academic workshops are at school with a half group of students, and for 3 days a week and 2 days alternating. Then in the afternoons, all students go home. They have travel time and lunch, and then they're able to do their art, music, PE, and library classes asynchronously. These will be pre-recorded in this model. And this was necessary to do because of how this particular model works. Then when students will log back in the afternoon for another academic workshop, which should be very familiar by that time, because it is what we'll be doing in the remote model that we will be beginning on Wednesday. Then we'll have an opportunity for a closing circle each and every day. The yellow portions of this model are independent practice, because students are going to be at home, and they will not have full support from their classroom teachers, because, as you can understand, the classroom teachers will be teaching students at school during that time and may not be able to engage with those students remotely. So the reasonings behind these models, this hybrid model that we have produced, were to take care of a few large problems that we came across. So the first and foremost, lunches are an area of difficulty for all of the schools in Belmont. Lunches are a time when students need to take off their masks. They are often tremendously social, and breathing and talking without masks is a difficult time. Also, our lunch periods, if anyone has ever come to visit one of the elementary schools during lunch, will know is a somewhat chaotic time. Up to 70 children at a time are put into the cafeteria, and in normal circumstances, though it gets a little loud, it is a safe and effective way to have children eat lunch en masse. However, when COVID hit, this model becomes completely untenable. We looked into having kids eat in their classrooms, as well as trying to rotate them through the cafeteria, but none of the solutions for that could could possibly work. This model, so we eliminated the need for lunch. That was the reason for it. The community time is still going to connect the two cohorts. Like, they will have a synchronous morning meeting and closing circle. So even students who are at home will be able to log in and see the morning meeting. And they will also all return to the academic workshop every afternoon. Students will, the biggest and important piece of this hybrid model is, of course, that the students will see their teachers in person 2 to 3 days every week, which helps build connections, supports learning, and solves the problems that they may be having with their academics and might have been developing in the remote model. And I think we saw from the success of the first day of meet and greets how important even the limited physical interaction that students had with teachers, and how positive it was. That really makes this hybrid model, important to have that personal connection. And as I said, we still maintain that connection between the cohorts with the afternoon learning. And this particular model mitigates the inherent lost teacher time in a full day hybrid model. And let me explain. So in a full day hybrid model, a teacher would be engaged with children inside the classroom for the entirety of the day, and unable to connect with those students even at home, even for a small amount of time. In our model, they're able to see their students in the afternoons through the remote teaching. And we think that was a great bonus. There are challenges with this model. And as we, much like the beginning of this meeting showed us, the challenges of this time are come at us hard and heavy. But the challenges include that there's 2 days of less structured instruction away from teachers. And those days, that can be difficult. A child will be having their academic workshops in the afternoon, but there's a fair amount of time where they will be doing independent work. I will point out, however, as is indicated in the graphics, that intervention work supports and IEP supports will still be done during that time, but remotely. In this model, specials are not live like they are in the remote model. And the reasoning for that is actually particular. Our remote model had 2 out of the 5 class grade levels having their I'm losing it here, but their live specials performed in the morning. If we had students come in during the morning, and we would basically be having them come into school and then have a remote classroom experience in the school, it seemed like a waste of precious in-person minutes. So we switched all of our specials to a pre-recorded model. And whilst that can be good quality, it's not the live interaction that we were hoping for our students. The staggered transitions that are going to be necessary so that we can get even half of our students in and out of school at one time, they're going to be tricky to manage. It'll be a logistical problem to solve. And on alternating weeks, there are 3 days in a row of independent practice as identified here. And on alternating weeks, students might actually be out for 5 days because of the weekends as well. So we 5 days without in-person interaction with their teachers. The hybrid model, as we said, will only start when it's safe to do so. Children will be required to wear masks, socially distanced outside and in the classroom, and will be needing to follow all of the regulations that have been developed by the Board of Health. They will have lunch at home to save on that issue, and families will be required to check their child's health at home before sending them to school each day. The cohorts that will develop during this time of hybrid learning, because only half of the students in any particular school will be in at one time, will be developed this way. We're going to balance, your children are already placed in balanced classrooms that we made and shared. And those classrooms will remain intact. We will make sure that we'll prioritize siblings to be in the same cohort. So a family with kindergarten, 2nd and 4th grade, for instance, will all be able to send their children in on the same days. The classrooms will then be split in half in purposeful ways. We'll try to make a second mode of, again, equally balanced between a lot of the factors we've shared with you that we use every time that we make our classes. And the hybrid model is also going to follow the same schedule as the middle and high school. All students, hybrid and remote, will be placed in cohorts. And neighborhood, but I must say that neighborhoods, family-created pods, and work conflicts are not going to be considered in determining cohort makeup. There's very little room for us to wiggle on making those cohorts, and those things are not going to be part of the process. Now, I believe I'll turn it over to Anita.
So then the next question is, what about this? What happens to the students who continue remote learning when the hybrid model starts? So for the kids who are in remote learning, the kind of overarching principles is that kids will keep kids connected to the schools. They'll still stay with their same classmates. So they're not going to be moved into a different room or a different program. They'll stay with their classmates. They'll have the same curriculum as the hybrid students. And their instruction will be from Belmont Public Schools staff, and there'll be minimal disruption. It really won't look very different at all to our kids whose families have chosen the remote only option. And so in this model that Seeley just showed us, where in those blue circled areas, the kids who are hybrid are coming to school, that will be where there's a slight shift for the remote kids. They will still be getting remote instruction during that time, but because their home classroom teacher is with the kids who are in the hybrid model, there will be a different public school teacher working with them just in those, if you see, that's a 2-week period. So over the 2-week period in those 5 blocks of time, they will be taught by a separate teacher, but still taught remotely. They'll be with their class for the morning meeting, so that morning meeting will stay the same, and the afternoon is the whole class together, just like it is before in this phase 1 that we're at right now. They'll be together for closing circle, and so it's just those 5 blocks. They may have a different teacher, or will have a different teacher. And the next slide, Seeley. So students will remain in their cohorts. I know there was some talk that people will be moved around. That will not be happening. And while their cohort mates are in person, they'll just get instruction from a different teacher. I think I've said everything on this. They will separate from the kids in the hybrid model just on those circled areas on the graphic that Seeley showed on the previous slide. There we go. And can we change our mind? So I have had emails from people saying, what if I choose remote and then I want to go hybrid? Or what if I choose hybrid and then I want to go to remote? And the answer is yes, you can change your mind. There will be a waiting period. So it's not like on Tuesday night, you can say, all right, we're going to do it a different way. And then on Wednesday morning, it will be different because we'll need to prepare classrooms. And so the decision was made to do that in cycles. So the changes happen the first of every month, but no sooner than 3 weeks from the date of the request to change. And that's that for, oh, and Ardo. Is Ardo here?
Yeah, Ardo, I saw you in the crowd, Ardo. We all noticed we had questions from families about music instruction and the arts in general. So this is, we invited Ardo to come speak to families about not just the strings program for during remote and hybrid, but also art and the fine arts in general. So Ardo, thank you for joining us. I don't know how you raise your hand so Celia can find you.
Can you hear me? Excuse me. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
That's a yes. All right. I don't have, hi everyone. I'm Arto Asadorian. I'm the K-12 Director of Visual and Performing Arts. I don't have any slides for you. So, and I know it's been a later night maybe than we wanted to. So I'll kind of briefly give you an overview of what we're doing for music and art, and then talk to you about the string program a little bit, and then get out of your way, hopefully. So the bad news for us is, like in I think all of our areas, in all curricular areas, teaching art and music remotely is going to be challenging, and certainly for the teachers is going to be a little bit less rewarding and enjoyable than what they're used to. The music teachers are used to being in really vibrant, loud, noisy rooms with kids making music together, and the art teachers are used to getting their hands really dirty and covered in clay and paint, and I know that that is going to be something that they miss this fall. The good news is that, first of all of our art teachers and music teachers are returning to our schools. So when your students do start music and art instruction, they are going to be seeing familiar faces who will be very happy to see them. And for the most part, we're seeing students for the same amount of instructional time that we would have seen them in the past. So in terms of curriculum, we feel good that we'll be able to teach the kinds of skills and give students the kind of experiences that we normally do. For visual art, the teachers will be with each class for 45 minutes a week, which is almost exactly the same as what we've had in the past. The big takeaway that I hope that I want you to leave here with, we have ordered art supply kits for every element, for every art student in the district. So we just have not received all of those materials yet because so many of them are back ordered because schools across the country are doing the same thing that we're doing. So we have ordered art supplies for each of your students. Once those arrive, the teachers will have the daunting task of trying to bag up art supplies for every student in their school. So that means Ms. Camerata at the Wellington School will have to bag up about 500 take-home kits for those students, which means we may be reaching out for some parent volunteers to help to put those things in kits to be picked up. So until those kits are put into your hands, the teachers will be asking your students to do work with materials that we assume that most people will have around the house, and also might also be part of the general school supply lists. Once we know that students have the supplies we've ordered, then the curriculum will ramp up a little bit. In music similarly, we'll be seeing students once a week for 45 minutes, which is that's actually an increase for grades K and 1, and for grades 2 through 4, we normally see them in school twice a week for 30 minutes. But seeing them once a week for 45 minutes, I think we think might actually be a little bit more efficient because we won't have all the transition times and things like that. So, so we feel good about that. We will focus on building music literacy and developing skills in a remote setting. We also have ordered some take-home music supplies for you, which will be arriving shortly. Again, we'll be asking for parent volunteers, and we're very lucky in the music program that we have POMs, Parents of Music Students, as our booster organization. So we already have about a dozen volunteers to help with that, to help send your music supplies home. So, so you're welcome. Many of you will be getting recorders in your homes, which I'm sure will be a welcome addition to the at-home school program for you. Make sure that they're all practicing their recorder when those arrive. So that's for the classroom music. Now, probably the newest thing for you, if you have a fourth grader, student entering fourth grade right now, is that they have the option of signing up for our string program. Typically, we offer weekly group lessons on violin, viola, cello, and bass for fourth graders. This year, because it is going to be a challenge to start instrumentalists remotely. There's no two ways around that. Usually that's a very tactile thing, and our teacher, Miss Dagan, who is wonderful, is usually helping students reposition their hands and fixing their posture and all of those things. So she really has a daunting task trying to do that remotely, but we feel very confident and actually excited to see what this is like remotely. It's going to require you as the parent, if you're signing your student up for the string program, to maybe be a little bit more hands-on, helping them out at first, maybe standing next to them as they watch their video lessons. So I'm gonna put a link here. I can only send this link to Seeley. He's the only person I have the option of chatting with, so maybe he can take this link and send it out to everyone. But this is the link to an email that I sent out last week that had information about the string program. So just in case you didn't see that, Maybe Celia can put that in the chat for you. Remember that this is an optional program, so this is extra. This is extra from the typical music class that all students will get. The way we're going to do this in the remote setting is that Ms. Dagan is going to send a pre-recorded video lesson out once a week for all students that they can work on at home, maybe with the help of a parent. We're also working on getting some high school mentors to serve as tutors for the younger students, because we know this is going to be really difficult. So you'll get the pre-recorded lesson once a week, and then once a week during lunchtime, Ms. Dagan will be doing live Google Meet lessons for each school. So Mondays at Burbank, Tuesdays at Wellington, Thursdays at Butler, Fridays at Winbrook. During their lunchtime, your student will have the option to pop into a Google Meet live with Ms. Dagan, and that can be, you know, hands-on playing if they want to, or it can just be time for them to see Ms. Dagan demonstrate some things while they eat their lunch, and just sort of and also give Ms. Dagan a chance to get to know your kids in person. The string program, because it is extra, does require a $250 participation fee, which there's information at that link that that I hope will be shared. Oh, it has been shared with you, great. We do provide waivers and fee reductions for families who qualify for that. And additionally, if you qualify for a waiver, you would also qualify for a scholarship instrument rental. So we really hope that cost is not a barrier for anyone. We will do everything we can to help you if that is the case. Another great program that I want you to know about is through Powers Music School. It's called Belmont Scholars. So if you are a family that qualifies for a fee waiver or reduction, Powers Music School will give you that same level of waiver or reduction towards weekly private lessons there, which is really amazing. So if you qualify for a full waiver in the Belmont Public Schools, then you also qualify for free weekly private lessons at Powers, which is just outstanding. So I hope that you will take advantage of that opportunity. So lastly, like I said, we typically would offer violin, viola, cello, and bass to fourth graders. Because of the complexities of the remote start, we're only going to be offering violin and cello to start the year. And then later on, once we're in person, hopefully someday soon, if you have a student who really desperately wants to play the viola or the bass, we'll find a way to switch them over. And that is it for me.
Thank you so much, Arto. So we also wanted to include a little bit about kindergarten this evening, because there were some questions at our remote learning information nights. The good news story is that full day kindergarten is now free for everyone. Yay, that's fantastic. So everyone is invited to attend kindergarten full time. And just FYI, children who turn 6 by December are required to attend the full day program. So that would mean if your child's birthday is from September to December. And parents who, if you were to decide you wanted to send your child for a half day, that would mean you wouldn't participate in the afternoon remote learning program. But we're offering a full day program. So if you wanted to do a half day, the day sort of would just end at the halfway point, and whatever happens after that your child wouldn't participate in. But again, we are offering everyone and inviting everyone to attend full day kindergarten, because that's what we want to have the children with us as much as possible.
So as we get ready for school to begin on Wednesday, we shared some of this advice with you at our last remote sessions, but we felt like it bared repeating. So please spend this time while we're getting ready for school thinking about your child's workspace, where your child will work best, what that child needs in order to be successful. We know all of our children are very young and need a lot of sleep. This is a great time to be transitioning to a sleep schedule that will allow your child to wake up fresh and ready to go and be ready for that 8:45 or 8:50 login full of energy. Please don't be afraid to communicate with us, to communicate with your teacher, reach out with questions or concerns. Please never worry alone. Remember that this is all new and we are going to make lots of mistakes. I think tonight is the perfect example of that. But as much as we can frame it as we learn from our mistakes and we grow from them, I think it helps all of our children to give themselves permission to make mistakes and to grow from it. And remember, all of our students are young in elementary school, and we are going to work really hard to build independence, but they are going to need check-ins, particularly at the beginning, but really throughout remote learning during the day, where the teachers are going to work hard to help students learn routines and to gain independence, but they're young. And so please remember to check in on them and communicate with us if something's going wrong, if you have questions, or if you need advice on how to help support your child.
And Heidi, do you want to quickly mention the tech slides that we sent that went out to families today?
Absolutely. That was coming next. Perfect timing. So in your many emails that you got from us, particularly in the last hour, but before then, we sent out our instructional technology specialists have prepared some really wonderful slideshows for you about how to prepare for school using either your district provided Chromebook or your district provided iPad. So please, if you have some time, watch those and get those devices ready for the first day of school, because the more prepared you are, the more prepared your child will be, and the less we know there are going to be technical glitches, but we're trying our hardest to avoid as many as possible. If in the next few days, as you're working on your devices, or if school starts and you notice that you still have technical issues at all, under the parent tab in the Belmont Public Schools website, the second one says parent tech support. Please put in a ticket. Our tech people are amazingly responsive, and they'll be here to help you to get through whatever issue, if it's a technical issue that you have. Obviously, if it's a learning issue, feel free to reach out to the teacher. And please know that we are truly all in this together. You have showed us tonight how incredibly patient and understanding you are. And we are trying to be that way too. We are all in this together. We are all here to grow and learn together. We are so excited to be back learning with your children. Seeing them today was like the best thing that could have happened to us. It filled us with such incredible joy. And we can't wait to see those who couldn't come today, tomorrow, and we are thrilled to see them in the remote world too. So know that we are here to support you, and we care deeply about your children's happiness and learning and achievement. So with that in mind, I know there are some questions that have come up and more questions. So Celia, I believe you have all the questions, correct?
I do indeed. And so, well, they're going to start popping. But if you will be so kind and patient, people have been entering some questions into the chat. I'm going to go back and read them out, and the principals and I will be answering as many of them as we can. All right, let me just scroll back up. So if it will take 6 weeks to build up to the remote schedule, can you say what we should expect in the first few weeks of school? If you don't mind, I'll take this one. We expect, I mean, the new regime that we are working under right now is going to be very different for everyone, for our teachers and for students and for families at home. And we expect that the model that we have conceived of for remote learning, with academic workshops, with students moving in and out of small groups, is something that's going to have to be built up. But this is very similar to what happens in the regular school year. Students, when they come into school, they don't immediately jump into Readers and Writers Workshop and begin doing work independently and on their own. The first 6 weeks of school is a time of building routines and learning how to do the learning that will take place throughout the year. Certainly there's academic work that will take place during these first 6 weeks, as usual in a regular typical school year, but there's going to be a lot of interesting and novel things for students to learn, and for teachers to develop and figure out. We've never tried this model before, and we expect some hiccups and some learning that will take place. The next question is, what is the model for providing in-class support for kids on IEPs? Separate Meet, Zoom channel?
I'm happy to take that one. We are going to be providing support as defined in students' IEPs. It will definitely involve going from meet to meet or remote room to room, but our special educators and English language education teachers and reading teachers are already thinking about ways to come get students from one virtual classroom and bring them to another to get all the support that they need. So we are very much dedicated to that and are working on technical solutions to move students in a polite and safe and confidential way to the instruction that they need.
Great. The next question is, how does the hybrid model work for half-day kindergarten?
So I would imagine that they would, like we said, if a half day, the half day is the morning. And so the children would, I guess that's an interesting question, because they would be working with that other with the teacher who supports, let's say if they're in cohort A and cohort A comes in person on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then is not in person on Thursday and Friday in this model because it's a half day. That's a really interesting question. I guess they would still be joining morning meeting with their classroom and their classroom teacher. And something else that we didn't mention is that the hope is that the teacher who is supporting kids remotely, who stay full remote during the hybrid model, they would be collaborating closely with the classroom teachers who are in school, so that they are doing lessons together, and that way our children who are in full remote and in full hybrid are sort of all on the same page, and no one's falling behind or rushing ahead, that they're all kind of having the same learning together.
Next question is, will IEP sessions happen during academic workshops, remote, or at school?
It depends. I'll take this one. I take my turn. So it depends. For the few children who have been identified as receiving IEP services at school, it will happen at school. There are sometimes we might be asking kids or families if it's possible to bring kids in to do some testing live or to have a counseling session or something live, but most of it will happen remotely. It can happen during the academic workshop because the teacher will teach the core teaching lesson with the teaching point for that morning or the afternoon, and then kids will break out in groups. So at that time, they might be working with a special educator, or they might be working with their classroom teacher, or they might be working in a group. But those services could happen also during another block, a pull-out session completely separate with somebody during the academic workshop model as well.
The next question is, if specials are not live, must they be completed at the time after lunch, or can they be done at parents' discretion? And that's a simple one that I'll take. The answer to that is that they can make a choice based on what is best for the family. So they can do it during, as they come home after lunch, or they can do it later in the evening if they so choose. The next question is, will there be any kind of recess or social time in the mornings?
Do you know, sorry, go ahead, Anita, please.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, if that's referring to the hybrid model? I'm thinking so.
Let's assume so.
Yes. So I would say that it's not in the schedule, but we know our children are very young and they need to move and they need to play. And so we would work with our teachers to make sure that what the children need developmentally, both in terms of their growth and in terms of their learning, is provided for them. We also at the same time want to use our in-person time to its fullest capacity and fullest potential. So we're going to strike a balance between giving children opportunities to move, giving them opportunities to play, and really using that time for strong academic learning.
Will remote during hybrid be live streaming classes?
So when you say live streaming, we like to continue the same. Essentially, we're really hoping to have as few transitions as possible and needs to adjust. And so for kids who choose to stay in full remote, the major adjustment would be at that different teacher coming in for those few mornings a week. But they would still be having the same workshop model. So when you say live stream, when you ask live streaming, what that means is maybe the mini lesson, sometimes it's synchronous, sometimes asynchronous, pre-recorded, but there would be small group instruction, and that would be live. If that's what you mean by live streaming. I think sometimes when we hear live streaming, that means there might just be a webcam in the classroom while instruction is happening, and that is just getting kind of pushed out to the family or to the child, obviously, who's just watching it happen passively. Our model for remote learning is not passive. It was intentionally designed to be interactive for kids, to have on-screen and off-screen time, small group experiences with their classroom teacher.
All right. This one's a long one. If the remote students are connecting with the whole class in the morning and afternoon, why can't the hybrid students go to class all day and remote students learn directly from classroom teachers the same way they're connecting for the morning and afternoon meetings?
So we did look at full day hybrid models. We looked at models where kids came all day to school during the day, and then the next one all the way. And we had problems with lunchtime. Trying to figure out how to get that many kids lunch in a way that was safe, because they have to be a further distance apart when they're removing their masks. And then there's a recess. How can they use the equipment or not use the equipment? So there were some areas where we were concerned about safety. And then also in terms of the amount of curriculum that you can offer. If the full day is half and half, then it really slows down the curriculum work that you're doing. And so we felt like that was between the safety concerns and the curriculum concern, we felt like a half-day model was a better one for us.
All right. This one is, will kids be placed in their own cohort if they choose to move from fully remote to hybrid at some point? So if we all are in a hybrid model and a child remained in the remote teaching model, when they made a choice to go back to the hybrid model, yes, they would be in the same cohort that they were in during the remote model. And this one I think might be a question for Arto. I don't know if Arto is still on with us, but he asked, is there an option of chorus and general music if a child does not want to take strings?
So yes, the string program is completely optional. Celia, can you just nod up and down if you can hear me? Yes, good. Okay. String program is completely optional. So if you're in grade 4, you're getting a general music class no matter what, just like everybody else does. And singing is a major part of that curriculum. So yes, everyone will sing, everyone will have a music class. And if you want to select to play a string instrument, that's an extra component, an extra opportunity that's available to you.
Thank you, Arto. Appreciate that. Is there any update on aftercare? We weren't prepared to, as far as I know, to offer any update on aftercare at this particular meeting. That is still being determined between the superintendent, who's meeting with aftercare providers, and there are certainly a lot of hurdles and obstacles to get over before those plans can be announced. What will be done when/if someone at school tests positive for COVID? Also, what if a child has a parent or relative at home with COVID? Are they still welcome to come to school for a hybrid model?
Okay, so none of us are doctors, but we are informed by doctors, medical health professionals, and our public health nurses. And they have put together a set of guidelines, which I believe are on the website, and we are going to follow those to the T for every situation involving anything related to related to sickness, COVID, or anything related to health and safety. We've already gone through a number of trainings from our public health nurses, and we're going to continue to be guided by the Department of Public Health in all decisions that we make.
What about the cleaning on Wednesday between the two cohorts?
There's a fogging machine in every building, and the custodians are trained in how to use that, and they'll be cleaning not only between the cohorts, but they'll be cleaning commonly touched surfaces throughout the day. And they have a list, even in phase 1, they have a list of the rooms and spaces that are being used, so those are cleaned extra well. We have the cleaners that they're using are recommended by the Board of Health, and we'll be following those protocols.
All right. Is the remote class in the morning, including all 4 elementary schools? How many kids in each online class? It might be my turn. Our plan has not been to group students from across elementary schools at this time, but to have them grouped in a remote model at our school. They may be grouped, and a lot of this depends on the numbers that come through into the full remote model. If everyone chooses to do hybrid, then there would be very few students, so we'll have to deal with that. But let's say at Burbank, for instance, if there's a little cohort of 4th graders, they would all have a teacher that would teach them together because they would be grouped up. But I'm not sure, it depends on the numbers, and that's an interesting idea, but that is not part of the plan at the moment. Going back to the first day of school this Wednesday, the district calendar, updated COVID approved by the school committee, states this Wednesday is a full day of school for elementary students starting at 8:40/8:50 and ending at 1:40 to 1:50. The recent email from Superintendent Phelan included the start times for 9:16, but not the end times. Can we please clarify when elementary students can expect to be dismissed on 9:16?
I'm happy to take that one. It is our understanding right now that this Wednesday, 2 days from now, is a half day of school with 11:45 dismissal. If we are wrong about that, we will obviously get back to all of you with updated information. But at this moment, it is our understanding that it is a half day of school.
Can I just add on to that, Heidi? In the remote model, every Wednesday is dismissal happens at lunchtime. So the expectation is, and that's every Wednesday. It's not just the first day of school. The remote model's full day, if you will, is a half day because we recognize the need for teachers to have additional planning and meeting time. So on Wednesday mornings, they have the typical morning with workshops and that are interactive with their teachers and their morning meeting at the beginning of the day. And then at 11:45, when everybody breaks for lunch, then the children can do their extension practices, go on Dreambox, Raz Kids if they choose, or they can do off-screen independent reading and different writing activities while teachers are in meetings and planning and things like that.
Okay, I'm seeing a few questions that are repeats of stuff we've already covered. What does academic workshop mean?
I'll take this one. So one of the things from when I was a little girl, we used to have the teacher taught the lesson and we all learned it in the same way. Then we all did the same page in the same book or read the same story at the same time. And we know now that we know so much more about how kids learn and how that works. So in the academic workshop, there is less teacher talk. So if you came into a classroom now, you would see less teacher talk than when I was a little girl, where the teacher did almost all the talking. And the teacher talks and teaches the point in a really clear fashion, but in a short way. And then kids rehearse it at at the level that they're at. So for example, in reading, if I taught and I'll pick something really simple, I did a lesson on finding the main idea, then the kids are going to break into groups and they're going to practice that skill in the book at their reading level, because we know the more rehearsing they do at their reading level, the better it helps them as a reader. And then the teacher might be breaking into groups, and those might be groups of kids reading at the same level, or they could be strategy groups of kids who need help based on a strategy rather than reading level. And so kids are getting support and practicing independently and in a math lesson, there might be a group doing enrichment. There might be another group getting support on that, or getting a little pre-teaching tomorrow to help them access the content. So kids are getting what they need, but it's still following that same staircase of learning that we want for them to progress throughout the year.
All right. Is the hybrid lunch longer for the travel time to get students back home?
I'll take that one. Yes, we know that there's travel time. We also, another reason for the pre-recorded specials is because we know that not all our children live right next to our schools, and we wanted to be flexible and do what's best for families. So we wanted to give our children time to eat, to stand, to stretch, to do all the things they do, and then to, if they're ready, watch their special, and then be ready for learning in the afternoon.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I will indicate that there are many, many questions yet that I haven't even scrolled through. We started late, I admit, that is true, but we are not going to be able to get to everyone's question today. So, but what I will do is make sure that these questions are somehow, copied and pasted so that we can address these at some time later. But I'll read off a few more questions at this time. When hybrid starts, what can we expect for the remote teacher? I know it will be a BPS teacher, but can you say if it will be an elementary school teacher from the child's school, specialist teacher?
I don't think we know the answer to that until we know the numbers of kids that we're talking about. And we also, so there's data that we need to know. It will be somebody certainly qualified to do that work.
And this is a kind of a follow-up to that. Will remote-only students be taught by teachers with grade level experience and relevant license? And I think that is absolutely something that we would make sure was happening. Every single child in our district will be taught by a qualified teacher who has gone through a thorough process of being, hiring process. If we choose the hybrid model, but then don't feel comfortable sending our child in, they would automatically revert back to the remote model without a waiting period? That's a good question.
It is.
Can you say that again, Celia? I'm sorry.
So it's essentially the opposite of going from remote to hybrid. If we choose the hybrid model, but then don't feel comfortable, can they automatically then go to the remote model without a waiting period?
No, I would expect there would still be a wait, because let's say, if we have a teacher assigned to support all those remote kids, and then, and there's an increase of numbers, we couldn't just do that overnight. There would still need to be a transition period. Obviously, if a family just didn't feel comfortable sending their child anymore, you could decide, I'm not going to send my child anymore. But then I guess you would expect that your child would still continue with the all remote in the afternoon with everybody else. And then you just have to have that waiting period for those, what used to be the in-person days. There would be a lag time before we could assign that other teacher to support them.
All right, and I'm afraid, one more, everyone? You good for that? All right. Since it would be difficult for parents to communicate with each other this year, it would be helpful if teachers helped facilitate parent exchanging email contact info. Since the teachers already have this info, it would be easy for them to share among parents who are interested.
I would recommend that maybe if room parents wanted to help and just ask that question of parents. But I think our teachers we adore you families and want to help you. And we also, our teachers trying to facilitate those contacts would be really difficult. I do know that our PTAs are so awesome and they do create a directory. We haven't talked about that actually, about what it would look like this year or when those might be ready. But typically families have to indicate if they want to opt in. We can't just share information, contact details of all families, because that would be a violation of privacy. So there is typically at the beginning of the year, there's a sort of a refresher of your contact details and information. And so that's where you can opt in to the directory. And that then typically gets shared at a certain point early in the year with the PTAs who create those directories. I'm not 100% sure what that process will look like this year. Anybody? Okay.
The PTAs and PTOs I know have discussed it and are working on it.
Oops. All right. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this evening did not go as planned, but I think we eventually got almost, I think, 550 people into the meet at one point in time, and we appreciate everyone's participation in this event. We did our best to answer as many questions as possible, and we know that there are many still to be answered. We'll be looking through those questions and hoping to get answers to you from the chat, as well as, anytime you have a question, please feel free to send it in to us. So from myself, this has been certainly a unique experience for me, unfortunately, but thank you so much, everyone, for your participation, and I'll pass it off to my other principal colleagues.
Just want to say good night. Thank you so much. It was lovely seeing you all today, and thank you again for your patience tonight. And we know this is a tricky, fraught period for you, an anxious period, so we hope that this information was helpful for you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for coming on this unbelievable journey this evening with us, this unexpected journey. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Oh, and one quick shout out. Oh, sorry, Anita. I just want to thank Rachel Heller thank you. Let's give her a big hand for helping us tonight all be together. Thank you. Huge thank you. Sorry, Anita.
That's okay. I'm the new kid on the block, and I just want to say thank you as well. And also, oh my gosh, today at our meet and greet, how respectful the parents were and really did such a good job of giving kids time, backing up and making those connections with other parents. It was a really nice thing to see. I'm just so excited to be here, and thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
See you tomorrow, some of you.